The inner critic is another part of you that is trying to protect you in some form or fashion. She wants to protect your reputation or your image. She doesn't want you to get in trouble. Even your negative self talk is not here to hurt you. And maybe it's not about silencing her. And even the parts that aren't so pleasant, maybe they need a place to belong to. When you can accept all of you, I think that's where magic is. That's when the love is flowing freely and we are experiencing a sense of acceptance that we never have before.
Welcome to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Ray Kovacs, a registered nurse and reflector in human design on a soul mission to help women like you rise from life's ashes with abundant energy, purpose, and joy. Each week, we'll meet at the intersection of science, soul, and storytelling as we create a bridge between holistic women's health, the sacred feminine, and cyclical wisdom. You'll get tools and insights from experts and guests helping you to thrive in every area of your life. So go ahead and pull up a chair, grab your favorite crystal or cup of tea, and let's rise like phoenixes together.
Hello, sister, and welcome to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I am excited to talk a little bit today about the inner critic that comes up in our luteal phase. Now, today I am on day 18 of my cycle, and recently I've been experiencing some cycle changes. Typically, my cycles are about 31 days long, and for the last two cycles, they have been 25 days. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm 41 years old, and I've very potentially entering into the very early stages of perimenopause. And cycle changes are one of those first signs. Specifically, shortening of the cycles is very common when you're starting to enter into that space of perimenopause. Now, it's only been two cycles, so it might not be permanent. It might just be a couple other things that are going on, but I'm paying attention, right? And that's a really important thing to note, and why tracking your cycle is so important, because when things start to change, then you know what's going on. And for me, those changes could be related to perimenopause. It could be related to stress. I will say my normal, right, and having a body with polycystic ovarian syndrome is that if I'm under stress, then my cycles get longer, not shorter. And I know this because I track, and I've tracked for a very long time. So that's really important to understand and what's coming up, and also understanding the energetics that come behind every single phase of your cycle. Now, typically on day 18, I'm like in my ovulation window. Usually at this point, typically I would ovulate on day 19 or day 20. So for me, being in my heart of my luteal phase is, at this point in the month, is really a new experience for me. And I've been noticing today that my inner critic has been really loud. She's been popping up and saying that I'm not doing a good enough job, that I've been ignoring my health, and that's why my cycles are changing, or that I'm falling behind, right? This week, Asen's been sick. She's got whatever virus is going around right now. And so she's been home for the last couple of days, and that's interrupted or changed the routine here in the house. And I was very aware that I was being critical of myself and saying some things that weren't very kind. And instead of allowing the critic to kind of run amok in my house of my head, I saw it as a couple of things. First, I saw it as a sign that, hey, I'm in my luteal phase. I'm pretty strongly in my luteal phase. So if there was any doubt ahead of time before today, I definitely know now for sure I am in my luteal phase. So I don't have to like look at the critic that was coming up and saying, "Oh, it's bad that I was criticizing myself. Oh, I must not be healed. I must not be like whatever." I'm not going to gaslight myself and say that. Instead, I'm getting curious and saying, "Oh, why? Why am I being critical of myself today? Oh, wow. I'm probably in my luteal phase. That's why, because that's when she shows up." Have you ever noticed that? If you're new to cycle tracking, or perhaps even if you've been cycle tracking for a while, then you'll know that the luteal phase is oftentimes when the critic can come up the most, when she gets really loud. And I believe that she has her place. What comes up in the luteal phase as self-criticism is not meant to hurt us. It is meant to bring awareness and for us to practice setting boundaries. Isn't that interesting? Right? We live in a world that tells us that setting boundaries is, well, selfish, or most of us grow up and we didn't learn how to set boundaries in our house. I didn't learn how to set boundaries in my house. We had no boundaries. There were no boundaries in my house, or they were very limited. And we didn't learn, or we were not demonstrated good boundaries. And so what happens is we grow up and our internal boundaries also become really permeable, too permeable. And so we end up with like leaky gut of the mind. Things end up going through that maybe are not helpful. And that's self-criticism is important when it's channeled in a certain direction and when it's in a certain place. It becomes unhelpful when it kind of goes out and leaks out into other places of our life and runs amok without having a direction. So if you read Wild Power by Alexandra Pope and Shani Hugo Wurlitzer, there's a whole entire chapter dedicated to the inner critic. And they talk about how the inner critic's domain is the luteal phase. It is the inner autumn season. And perhaps it's not wise for us to silence her, but maybe we just need to give her a voice. Because what is the inner critic really? The inner critic is another part of you that is trying to protect you in some form or fashion. She either wants you to reach your potential, or she wants to protect your reputation or your image. She doesn't want you to get in trouble, but she can kind of be a nasty bitch sometimes. She can go about it a nasty way, right? She really can get in there. I mean, I have had some conversations with my inner critic that have been just downright nasty. And so this is where practicing setting boundaries is really important. This is a practice I actually created from reading Wild Power and understanding the inner critic. Was I actually developed a practice where I sit down with two different colored pens and I write a conversation with my inner critic. So my inner critic, she actually has a name. Her name is Samira, and she looks like she looks like Lucy Liu from the old Charlie's Angels in the Barracuda song. I don't know if you remember that when she was undercover. She was like in the boardroom and she was wearing that tight leather skirt and she had the like a whip, I think. Samira looks like that. She's got like short bobbed black hair, power suit, glasses, 4-inch heels. Like she's just a fucking badass and super unapproachable, right? Just like blah. Very strong energy. very boss bitch energy, right? And so her and I sit down and we have a conversation together in our luteal phase. Because before I used to have these conversations, she would just run amok in every single part of my day, all month long, in my luteal phase, especially in my luteal phase, but in my follicular phase, in my ovulation, in my menstrual phase, she would just come up and tell me how shitty of a person I am all the fucking time. And when I read Wild Power, eh, I realized that I needed to put her back in a container. And also, I needed to let her speak to me. So I started sitting down and having regular conversations with her in my journal. Once a month during my luteal phase, I would sit down with these two colored pens and I would talk to her. I would say, "All right, Samira, what you got for me this month?" And I would just write out every self critical thing that had been reeling around in my head. And she would call me names. She would say some stuff, and I would let her. I would let her. I would let her just speak, whatever it was that was coming through, until there came a point when I didn't feel like she had anything else to say at that moment. And I would even ask her, "Is there anything else?" And she'd say, "No, I'm done for now," in her little curt way. And so then began my practice of self love and self acceptance. And the very first thing I would do is I would take my pen and I would cross out all the names she called, every single one. "You fat bitch. You dirty cow. You stupid whore." And she would say some, she would say some stuff, man. But I would cross them all out because you know what? I know that that's not true. I know she's just calling me names because whatever, she's got a mouth on her. But I would cross it all out because I know that not a single name that she called me is true. And I believe that about myself. And I'm not going to have even me call me names. I'm not going to let somebody outside of me call me names. So I'm certainly not going to let myself call me names. So I cross all those out. And then I read what she wrote. And my goal when I read what she wrote is to glean the 1% truth from what she said, to get curious about why she said what she said, and to help me understand a little bit more about myself and why this information was coming to light. And so I would kind of do some active listening with myself and I would write down, I say, "So it sounds like you are upset about this, or that I might need to look at this a little bit more in my life. It sounds like I've been dropping the ball a little bit in following through what I said I was going to do. And I need to address that a little bit because it's hurting our self trust." Right. And so I would write that out and she would come back, whatever with whatever she would say. But eventually, these conversations ended up being very illuminating. When I saw that the critic was not trying to hurt me, and when I stopped letting her hurt me, and instead starting getting curious about her role in my life as a woman with a cycle, we actually built a pretty good trusting relationship. She comes knocking on my door now in my luteal phase when she needs to have a conversation. And I show up with curiosity and an open mind. In return, she no longer invades all the rest of my phases because she knows that we're going to have a conversation in the luteal phase, unless it's something really, really important. But that part of me isn't running my life anymore. I'm no longer self-critical every single day of my life. Anxiety has gone down. My internal self-talk has improved immensely. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. And if I am getting self-critical in those other phases, then I gently remind her, "Hey, now is not the time for us to be talking about this. Is it an emergency? No? Okay, then. We'll have a conversation when I get to my luteal phase." Or if it's been a couple of months since we've had a talk, she'll show up in another phase. And that is a gentle reminder that it is really important for me to give space to my inner critic, especially in the luteal phase. So this morning, she was really hollering. And I've had a busy day. I have a sick kid. I am also trying to not get sick myself. Had a couple recordings to do, but I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a chat with her. I'm going to give her the space that she needs. So that way I can incorporate the wisdom that she has. If you feel like the inner critic really gets loud, especially a few days before your bleed, I encourage you to sit down and have a conversation with her. However you want to do that. You could borrow my technique of 2 pens and a journal, or you can do it over voice memo or just even speaking out loud. But get the words out. Don't let don't let the inner critic tear up your house inside your head. Get them out. Find that they lose a lot of power once they're spoken, once they're out of your mind, then you can look at them and say, I'm not sure that's true," or maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to pay attention more to this." But you don't have to be such a bitch about it. And I'm not going to talk to myself that way. That's how you build self-trust. That's how you build self-love. I teach this technique to all of my clients because I think it's an invaluable technique, and I'm bringing it to you because I think it's important. I think it's important to take care of yourself, to build relationships with these parts of you, and to understand that they are not here to hurt you. Even your negative self talk is not here to hurt you. And maybe it's not about silencing her, changing what she's saying, although maybe it is about practicing boundaries and making sure that she's where she needs to be, especially in your cycle. But maybe it's just about giving yourself some space to be. And even the parts that aren't so pleasant, maybe they need a place to belong to. When you can accept all of you, think that's where magic is. That's when the love is flowing freely and we are experiencing a sense of acceptance that we never have before. Before you leave today, I want to bless you with a card reading. Today I drew for you, ooh, the sun. The sun is all about joy and enjoying your life, the life force that flows through you, and seeing that vitality is at your fingertips. The life that you want to live is accessible to you. Sometimes you gotta just go outside and look up at the sun, both literally and figuratively speaking here. Your vibrant life is yours to create. And I believe that if you are a person who experiences cycles, that incorporating cycles into your life and understanding the ebbs and flows of your energy, of your emotions, of your body, that is a part of creating that life. So is joy. Joy is a huge part. It is the fire. It is the passion. It is the love. It is the fire element, right? We talk about all the elements of air, earth, fire, and water. The sun, vitality, that is your fire. That is the great motivator. It is the passion maker. It is the zing that we feel every single day. So go out and create joy. You don't necessarily expect that it's not always going to come to us. Sometimes we got to create it. We got to create moments for joy because it comes from within us. So I'm also going to listen to that card. And maybe even that self-critic is a little loud because I've not been doing a whole lot of things that bring me joy. So it was a great reminder for me too. Thank you, Spirit. I love you so much, friend. I'm so proud of you for doing this work, for getting to know your cycle, for getting curious about who you are. And that's what we're about here at this show. The Phoenix Perspective Podcast is here to help you shift your perspective and create a life that feels like love, that feels like joy, that feels vibrant. If this episode resonated with you, please share it. Go and review it on Apple Podcasts or, comment on the YouTube because that's how we get out to other people, other women who may be struggling with their inner critic would really use this episode. So if there's a woman that really crossed your mind when you were listening to this today, who you think, or maybe just all your girlfriends, you're like, you really need to hear this, please send it to them. I would love that because I can't do it all myself, sister. You're a part of this movement too. So I love you so much, friend. May you be blessed. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And remember, you are so worthy of living your vibrant life.
Yes, I am celebrating you because you just finished another episode of the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I am so grateful we got to spend time together today. It's really been a blast. If this episode lit up your heart or sparked something in your soul, please follow the show and share it with a friend who's ready to rise too. Until next moon phase, remember, you are so worthy of living your most vibrant life. See you next time.